Welcome back everyone once again to our last episode of CaF-Youth Virtual Forum powered by CaSean. My name is Tanika Skumratana and I am an Art and Cultural Creation Associate at CaSean. It is my pleasure to be back once again to serve you as the main moderator of this special virtual series. For our last episode today, we will discuss with our speakers from across ASEAN countries on the topic of future of work. Are you ready to play in the next normal? And after the end of this discussion, you can look at our summary of what we have discussed today at our CaSean official website or www.c-asean.org, or you can see on our screen below. Now with no further ado, here is our first speaker of the day, Miss Narisara Kamlangjai from QSR of Asia. Please kindly introduce yourself to our kind audience, please.
Okay, good evening, Khun Thanikan and everyone who watching live on Facebook. I'm Narisara Kamlangjai from the QSR of Asia, or QSA, under the food business of Thai beverage. The QSA is a franchisee of KFC brand. We operating since December 2017, and I'm now working in the position of financial analyst for 2 years. Before I joined QSA, I also work in the food and retail business. And today is a good session to share some idea relating to required skill for young generation, and also analyze some impact to the food business and what possible solution could be. And I hope unless you could get some ideas from this session. That's all for my self-introduction.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Let's move on to our first question of the day. Because right now we are all across the world facing a lot of problem and obstacle because of COVID-19 crisis. So in terms of working, especially in the financial field or even in food industry, what is the challenges that you have faces with during working during COVID-19?
Okay, I will separate into two parts for this discussion. For the first one, I'm gonna cover with the impact from COVID-19 during the lockdown or the current situation to the food business. And I could say it into 2 points. The first one is impacting from law and regulation. And the second one is changing in customer trend. And the next one, I'm gonna discuss about the required skill that we should have after the COVID end or during the crisis that we're gonna have those skills. So let's move to the first one, current or lockdown situation impact to the food business. Since the outbreak in Thailand on Q1 2020 and the lockdown in late March 2020 as well, food and industry is one sector that have high impact from COVID-19. First impact is from law and regulation. The compulsory closed dine-in and had like curfew hours in order to reduce risks of spreading virus and keep social distancing. So we lost a part of sale from dine-in. But luckily we have another sales channel which are delivery service, online platform, and also drive-through. But it's not enough to cover what we have lost. The question is the shift from off-sale mix gonna be like last forever, or it's just temporary? Because customer getting used to like this kind of services like delivery platform and drive-through. If it change permanently, the possible solution to sustain our food business, what it could be. To change the strategy of store expansion, physical store or palm location still needed or not? This would be a question. Or the chink in store size, this could be considered as well. Moreover, we should invest more on digital platform to support incoming sales to support like in future incoming sales. And the second change in customer trend who becoming concerning more on food hygiene. So we have to have a strong like food safety standard. KFC already have for a long time, and our operations strictly follow that standard. We could maintain this, could make us have like maintain high product quality to our customer, and made our customer feel like we have a high confidence on our product as well. And the next trend is becoming to be like cashless society because of afraid of infection from holding cash. So and also it could be like more convenient to the customer for becoming a cashless. And since we know that, okay.
So how does that affect the way you work or the way that people in your industry works?
Mm-hmm. You mean like the changing in the customer trend?
Yes. How does that?
I think these two that I mentioned, the law and regulation and the customer trend change, is impact to our sales. So we have to think like we have to have like new strategy to come up with how we're gonna serve that trend, like how if the trend change, the sale will be last forever or not, or it's just like temporarily. If it's temporarily, so we need to think that we have to invest on a new platform like digital platform or not. If not, we would stay for we would work like this baseline and how gonna it end. But I think we're gonna shift to be like relying more on technology. So we have to invest more on digital platform.
Yes. If you look at in the HR human resource perspective, so what are you looking for the skills for a new graduate? What kind of skill that you require to work in finance sector or even in food industry? Does that require more digital skills or something like that?
Okay, so for we facing with like this crisis, we as an employee have to plan or develop ourselves to be have more skill to be like in the changing market. So first, I'm gonna talk about the technology, and the second one is how organization could help them to develop this skill. The first one is we have to adopt or embracing technology to our working life. As you see during the lockdown period for the office worker, the major change is the shift from physical meeting into virtual meeting. Like remote working is not a new choice for communication or meeting, but only some using it before the outbreak. However, during the lockdown, most of people was forced to use it. So almost 100% of office workers might get used to this kind of meeting already. The benefit of having this video conference instead of physical meeting or being one of a choice for someone in a team who can't join it or balancing between like offline or online meeting. The benefit would be higher quality of meeting, better communication within organization, and resulting in improving company productivity and more efficiency as well. The reason of this remote working could have this benefit because it's easily to get into the meeting from anywhere or anytime. Even they are on holiday, they might willing to join it because they like to get an update from that meeting. Moreover, employee as myself could increase my own capability relating to like using this technology or Internet of Things. And relating to technology during after the crisis, it will be like data driven. Since the spreading out of COVID-19, the fundamental of the way we work may shift because market may have like more sensitive and volatile. So new law and regulation have been applied. Also, customer concern have concern more on the food safety or no dine-in during the lockdown. Because of this, we may have to get the real-time data for making decision, and we have to put our effort or resources to monitor like hourly or daily basis in order to see what have been changed and what possible solution could be for the QSA. We have to thank to our IT team for great contribution of implementing like automation reports, setting up infrastructure, something like that. And this kind of BI report would direct impact to our young workforce because they might losing one of a job on the role of reporting. However, every crisis could like bring new good things. So the skill that young employees should have rather than like doing a routine job and like monthly, weekly, or daily basis is changed into like creating or innovating of new report perspective or in different angle for management decision. I think this one is more difficult, like the skill that the young generation should have is more difficult to replace by technology because the technology may reduce like human errors and it could be like 24/7 accessibility to the data and employee could shift their focus by having more time to creating something useful to the company instead of doing something like routine report for like P&L report, sales reporting for the financial view. And the next one, I like to focus on how organization could help this group of people to develop themselves, like reskill or upskill. Since we are ready in the term of infrastructure or Internet of Things, it would be more easier for an organization to set up like online training for employees who willing to learn or refreshing their knowledge. And the second one is on the job training. Like I'm doing it right now, joining this session is a good one for me to develop my presentation skill or public speaking skill. Even it made me like nervous and scared, but in order to overcome this, I had to search for more like information, gathering ideas to share. At first, I denied. I said that I don't want to join it, but because I know this is my weakness, but my bosses very support and pushed me very hard to join this session. So that's all for the view of how it's gonna be impact to the food business and the possibility of the skill for the young workers could be. And another one that I like to discuss is about the not only for young employee but for everyone. It is soft skill. I have read through the article from Economic Intelligence Center or EIC from SCB. They analyze the impact from COVID-19 to young workforce generation, especially like new graduated, like wording. I like the wording they call this group of people like lockdown generation. According to article, they claim that the one who age under 24 may have higher rate of unemployment than other group because they may have less experiences because they're just newly graduated. And normally company would hire this group of people for like routine job, which is easily replaced by technology. So, and now we already have the report called BI report, Business Intelligence Report. So the demand of this workforce may be less, and the skill what is the soft skill that the skill that I gonna discuss is the soft skill. I think everyone, not only for the finance function, should have a soft skill. Why we need to have or why to have this skill, because I think it's harder to be replaced by technology and it's more difficult to be developed than hard skill. I have listened to the Standard podcast once, and they talk about the soft skill that employees should have. So today I picked some of those skills into this section. There are 4 skills that I'm gonna cover today. The first one is adaptability. The second one is empathy. The third one is collaboration. And the last one is prioritization. For the first one, adaptability, this is important during the crisis because we were facing with a lot of changes, such as environment, the way we work, the level of stress we have on the job. So the environment we have to change from working in the office, surrounding by lots of friends, into working at home with a few family members with us. At first, some people may struggle with working at home, but after a week, they're gonna be better. And the next one is the empathy, which is linked to number 3, collaboration. In the stand-up podcast, he said empathy is ability to feel with people. I think this is very important because when you understand someone's mind or that situation that they're facing with, you may quickly gain that trust and easier for like communication. So this would lead to more like collaboration within organization to achieve the same goal and target. The last one of the soft skill is prioritization. This is another another skill that we should have. For example, during the crisis, we have too many things to get done. Like anything is in hurry. I have only two types of work, like urgent and super urgent. So what we should do is for the skill.
Sorry about the internet connection. We lost your connection a little. ค่ะ ค่ะ sorry about our technical problems. Okay, back once again.
Okay.
Sorry. Let's catch up. So you recently discussed about the skills called the prioritization. So maybe you can give a little more example about prioritization. You are on mute mode.
Okay, like I said before, during the crisis, we have a lot of work, we have a lot of tasks to get done, like everything is in the same time. So we have to prioritizing it, which one is the due, according to the due date, I think. And we have to do like, be better plan for this and to relieve our stress. Like for me, I have easily like have more stress easily, so I have to plan and list out which one is going to be finished first. So this one is, I think, is the thing that we have to think about for the prioritization.
Yes, thank you very much for an insightful talk. So sorry that we have no time to answer the question from the home audience. So maybe we can, if we have opportunities, we can discuss more in our future episodes. So thank you very much ค่ะคุณจูน for your insightful talk สวัสดีค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
So let's move on to our next speakers. Our next speaker also come from food and tourism industry. Please welcome Mr. Somsak Bunkam of Khun Pai, the founder and CEO of Local Alike ค่ะ Khun Pai ค่ะ please kindly introduce yourself to our audience, please.
สวัสดีครับ สวัสดีครับ Good evening everyone. So my name is Somsak Bunkam. You can call me Pai. I'm the founder of Local Alike. Local Alike is a social enterprise that we focuses on using tourism as a development tool for local villages across Thailand. We've been around for almost 10 years, working with around 200 communities in Thailand. And also we have our own platform, which is localalike.com. Marketplace platform for community-based tourism in Southeast Asia. Right now we have product in Thailand, in Vietnam, Indonesia, and in the Philippines as well, also in Taiwan. Yes, that is basically what we are doing in the past 10 years. We normally people call us as a startup and with a combination of a social enterprise.
ค่ะ Thank you very much ค่ะ Let's move on to our first question. Maybe you can share us about the challenges of working during the COVID-19. So what kind of obstacle you have faced that affect the way of works? Please.
Yes, going back in like beginning of February and also in March, Local Alike is in the tourism industry, so we have a direct impact, 100% direct impact on the COVID-19 from the COVID-19. We have lost around 10 million in revenue, Thai baht in revenue, for just like a weeks that we our post the trip from customer was being postponed and without any further notice when it's gonna come back. What I have to tell is that if I have to tell the situation, it's similar to like I have to stop businesses and restart it like similar to 10 years ago with starting new things. I think it's sometimes it can be fun, but it's also difficult as well because like when you start like your company is 10 years ago, you start by yourself, but now you start with a team of 40 people and you have to do it right. You have no time to do it wrong. If you do it wrong, you're gonna suffer from like you don't have enough income or money to pay your 40 members of the team. So yes, I think luckily that we have been past this passing this period. So, but I have a lot to share as well in terms of learnings and
Yes.
and how to do business in the way.
So what are you looking at the challenges of working in the post COVID-19? What do you think that the way of work will be even change even more than we currently face of how we work?
I can say only in the tourism sector in Thailand, we have to change a lot. We have to adapt ourselves a lot as a small scale or a medium scale enterprise. As we know that in tourism, as in like in tourism industry, that there were around 3.5 million people that losing their job during the COVID period. Right, this is a big loss for Thailand as a country because tourism is one of the biggest industry in Thailand that contribute to the GDP of the countries. We know and we also learn that tourism sector is very unsustainable in a way. We rely on pretty much on the tourism sector, but I think moving forward, we have to make sure that, of course, we don't know when tourism going to come back in the country, but what we have to do is to make sure that tourism in the country, in terms of the term that we call is domestic travel tourism, is coming back as soon as possible. Otherwise, those like 3.5 million who lose job will have no way to get their job back if we cannot like activate our domestic tourism. We don't know whether inbound tourism when it's going to come back, but we as a country that rely on tourism, we have to make sure that when tourism come back from inbound tourism, we are number one in their travelers' mind. So we have to prepare everything like in the tourism sector, we as a country, we launched the new safety and health administration system that all the tourism company that have to follow. That's what we call CHA standard. This is a new standard that we have to follow, and I think it's going to be a new thing for tourism, not just like big hotel chains or airline, but everyone, including the community or the villages that Localize is working with. Now we are working with all these 200 villages to making sure that they have new normal or new standard to implement in order to welcome tourists with the more safeties and more help better for everyone.
So
I think one of the challenge that I can mention here is that what we learn as for me, for local, like we cannot rely on just one tourist revenue model product, one product model. Like we cannot just selling tour anymore. We have to make sure that we diversify our products a little bit. Sometimes we might have to go out of the tourism industry as well. Like many of my friends who own their own tour company, they have to shut down the companies because of their sell only package tours and they don't have other things to sell. I think this is what we learned, that we have to diversify our company a bit to have more products.
In the perspective of CEO and the owner of the business, so can you compare the required skill that you require from your employees when they apply for a job? So before the COVID, what kind of the required skill that they need to have, and now during and after the COVID, what kind of skill that they need more or they need to learn more in order to make the job better or make your business run even smoother, that will help you help you do an easier job in business?
Okay. I think the biggest skill that the company like us in terms of like a medium scale, like 40 people, what we need is that entrepreneurial skill. I think this is very important. They have to have like an entrepreneurial mindset. When we saying that entrepreneurial, I mean, it's like they have to think that the business that they're working for is their own business. So, you know, so that you have to make everything to do everything in order to make your company survive, not go bankrupt or something like that. So entrepreneurial skill is very important, and that entrepreneurial skill come with can do attitude as well. I think this kind of attitude is very important. If you have a high comfort zone in your uh, head, you're not gonna survive in during this kind of crisis. I think can do attitude is very important.
That that's the skill that you mentioned. Does that change a lot compared to before the COVID-19, or is it still like the same skill that you require in the first place, or how does that change?
I think it changed a little bit like in local, right? I think during that period we get to learn all our team member as well, whether that people, that guy or that lady, whether she has entrepreneurial mindset or not. Sometimes we hire them with specific knowledge and know-hows and skill that they can work on that job position. But now if they can offer like new skill or they can do other things like local, like we have to pivot ourselves from selling packet tour to sell local products and to sell local food. Now we have local alroy, we have local a lot as well. So they have to be able to transform themselves from being a guide tour to be a people who cook food, to be people who do e-commerce kind of thing, and even to be a sales person by themselves. I think multi-skill is very important, and multi-skill come with those who have a mindset of, you own the company and you have to do everything by your own.
We have some questions from our home audience. So the first question I would like to ask is the number of domestic tourism go up after the reopening, after the lockdown in Thailand? Does it help the tourism business a lot after the easing measure of the Thai government?
I think this is gonna help a lot because if we have to rely on tourism, which is I think tourism is like account for like 1/3 of the GDP, right? And as I said that 3.5 million people were losing their job because during that time. I think domestic tourism is very important, and I think the government now is preparing to launch many big campaigns in order to activate this kind of thing. I think that come with two position. I think to make sure that economics is dumped into tourism industry, to make sure that those small scale or even big scale they have customer, which is Thai customer, which is I think easier than getting international travel coming in this time. And also from this period as well, many people went back to their homes, and I think if we make sure that domestic travelers can be activated as soon as possible, I think there are two things, right? Either those people who went back home, they come back to Bangkok, they decide to operate small business in their hometown. I think there are two things, but we believe that the second thing going to be their choice more. If we input money from the government into the tourism sector, I wish myself that I hope that they're gonna be more like small scale entrepreneur, like open their home, say making their farms as a farm, say something like that in tourism industry. I think we're gonna have more new boutiques product, and I think it's a good time for them as well. If you think that there are a lot of campaign from the government that they can utilize the money from the government to do that, so that basically you don't have to find money. If you look into in detail, you will see that there are money waiting for you to start your own thing right now in tourism industry.
Also, for the last question, especially in Thailand, there are the news that COVID-19 might be come back to Thailand again because we now have a few more infected cases. So, do you think that it will affect the tourism industry a lot in the next 2 or 3 months?
Of course, if it's come back, I mean, if it's come back, I have no clue where the tourism is going to be, but I think there are going to be more people losing their job now, for sure.
Yes, one more question, please. Do you think that COVID-19 will it change the face of the tourism sector? Do you think it will move toward to the more hygienic oriented even more?
Yes, I think Thailand has come to the point that we have to select whether we're going to go mass or we're going to go with quality tourism. I think with no doubt that Thailand go with the second one, which is quality tourism and sustainable tourism. And hygiene is one of the very important factor for quality tourism.
So if we go to the more hygienic tourism, it more like safe. So will it affect the people who provide the service because you have even more costs to carry, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, in some like product or service. But there are some product or service that if you do that, the cost will be lowering down as well. Like for community tourism, like what Local Light is in. If you follow the safety and new hygiene standard, I think you can reduce your cost as well. I think you have to look into your cost structure and you will see that sometimes the new standard can help you, not just can harm you.
Thank you very much for such an insightful talk. Thank you very much again, and I hope that our audience will get a lot of ideas and experience from Kun Pai, and they can adapt that with the business that they do, especially in the tourism industry. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับ Thank you very much ครับ
So let's move on to our last speakers. Our last speaker is from Singapore, Mr. Khairul Rusty. Could you kindly introduce yourself to our audience, please? Just a moment. Kun Rusty.
Hi, hello. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ Please kindly introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rishdi. I'm calling from Singapore. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Reactor School. We are a startup school. And what we do is that we help students turn their ideas into projects and their projects into companies.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to our first question. The first question is, what kind of challenges of working that you have experienced, especially during the lockdown of COVID-19? What kind of challenges of working? Could you kindly explain?
Right. So Reactor is in the education industry, and we work with high schools and universities all around Southeast Asia. So one of the difficulties that we had was to adapt to home-based learning. So shifting learning online, working with the schools to ensure that it's safe to deliver the programs in the classroom. And sometimes some of our students, for example, don't have access to high-speed internet, so it's a bit difficult for us to adapt.
In the near future, even after COVID-19, so do you think that these kind of challenges will change, or there will be even newer challenges that you have to face in order to work to make the business smoother?
I think what's interesting that we've noticed so far is that for companies that work in the knowledge economy space, right, we're starting to see something called virtual internships. So the company could be based in one country, you could be based in another country. So right now, even Reactor, we do have interns in Hong Kong, interns in Indonesia who are working with us remotely, right? We've never met each other before, but we've hired them completely remotely. We pay them remotely as well. And I think this is likely to happen for a lot of tech companies, right? We do something called offshoring. So the HQ could be in one place, but you could be working somewhere else altogether.
So in terms of virtual internship, does it what do you say, efficient? Because when you look at the news, there are many colleges that were sued because of the lower qualities when it's come to online courses and online training. So does it affect the same way with the virtual internship as well?
Yeah, I think to some degree, there is a drop in quality, right? For example, if you're in the same office with your colleagues or your peers, you could just turn around and just have a chat with them, right? But now you've got to do things like arrange for meetings with your peers online. You've got to learn how to use technology tools like Slack, Discord, WhatsApp for work. You need to learn how to pitch to your clients. You need to learn how to sign documents online, right? So a lot of this is getting used to some things that we previously didn't use. In fact, I think one of the things that I'm a bit upset about is, we're paying rent for the office still, but there's no one in the office, right? Because everyone is just working from home. And I think this is likely to have to continue all the way till the end of 2020, actually. Yeah. So for us, because our lease is not over yet, we still have to honor the lease and pay up. But frankly, the office right now is a storeroom, right? It holds all our archives and stuff like that. But in the future, one of the things that we're considering is getting co-working spaces instead. So having a few hot desks at different places around the country, right? And in fact, we intend to give some of our employees a furniture allowance, for them to buy furniture at home, whether it's to buy their laptops or like standing desks so that they can work in a comfortable way at home. So this is a trend that we've noticed with a lot of tech companies, giving benefits for staff so that they can work productively at home.
Mm-hmm. So, as a business owner, can you compare the skills you need from your employees before the COVID-19 crisis and now with the COVID-19 crisis? So, what kind of skill you need from your workers before and after?
Right. I think the number one skill we've noticed is that we now have an international team, right? So we've got people in Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and they need to learn how to work across time zones and across different cultures, right? They need to be respectful of their peers, to understand cultural context, and understand, what's the best way to interact with someone of a different culture. I think cultural competency is going to be really, really important because ASEAN is going to be really, really big over the next 5 to 7 years. You're going to see a lot more startups raising money across Southeast Asia. You're going to see a lot more cooperation between the ASEAN countries. And we're going to have the fastest rising middle class in the entire world, just by terms of population. Right. So I think learning how to work with your friends across Southeast Asia and ASEAN is very important.
So when you look at the digital skills, so what kind of digital skills that the new workers should have in order to be success in the new business model or in the current virtual working situation?
Yeah, I think that question really depends on what industry you're looking at. If the person is doing something that's business development or sales related, they need to be able to pitch online. They need to be able to convince someone online, get your client to sign online, right? Everything is done from start to finish online. How do you do that respectfully, right? How do you ensure that you don't encroach on your client's digital space, right? I think that's important. You want to be respectful and professional at the same time. If the person is in software engineering, for example, and software engineering has been online for the longest time, right? What we've seen has happened is that you're now going to compete even more globally, right? Because if I'm an employer here, whether I hire someone in Vietnam or hire someone in Thailand or hire someone in Indonesia, it then looks at a matter of quality and a matter of cost, right? So if the cost is going to be comparable, then it's really about what kind of value you can provide to the employer based on your skill. So my recommendation to young people is that sometimes it's very hard for you to display value if you don't have a portfolio. So I think it's really important that students have an online portfolio. It could be a LinkedIn, right? If let's say you're a blogger, you might want to have a Medium, right? And then post up your blogs online. If you're a designer, you want to have Carbon Mate. If you're a coder, you want to have a GitHub. and you want to post up your projects online. That's one of the key things that employers are looking for, which is, can you deliver value immediately to the company upon joining?
So especially in terms of educational industry, do you have any suggestion for the new graduate that if they want to work in an education industry, especially in the online education, how should they prepare themselves before entering to the business?
Got it. So for education industry or edutech, this is very, very broad. It's not just about teaching online. You have things like assessment management systems. How do you assess online? You have things like education consulting. How do you get students to go from high school to university and get them to a good university? You've got learning management systems. You've got student management systems. EduTech itself is very, very big. So I think it's important for the student to understand which part of the education ecosystem they would like to join. Education is not just about a teacher and a student. I think it's become a lot more complex right now. And a good way for a student to develop themselves would be to join one of the many EduTech trade fairs or conferences. So for example, you've got EduTech, you've got GSS, EdTech X Asia. These are all conferences, and for students, most of the time, it's free to attend. But they've got to be able to network, and they've got to understand where the industry is going towards when it comes to EduTech trends. It's very, very important.
So we have some of the questions from the home audience. So the first question is maybe kind of even quite personal. So how is the situation in Singapore right now? So is the infection among migrant workers under control already?
Right. So I think if you saw the news today, our Ministry for Trade and Industry just mentioned that we have entered into a technical recession. So that's 2 consecutive quarters of contracting economic growth. And the reason why was because we did go into quite a long lockdown period, right? But what has happened is that we've now started to allow economic activity. So you can eat out now, but you have to limit yourself to 5 people. You can go to the office, but you need to ensure that you have split teams, so you don't have 2 teams meeting up together. And we're doing this because we know every time we see an unlocking of the economy, there's always a spike in cases. So what's happening right now for the migrant worker cases is that we've started aggressively testing all the migrant workers which are here, and then we're isolating them. So those of them who we tested and they're safe, we put them in dormitories where everyone else has been tested. So the numbers are still very high because these were subsidiary infections, right? So we do expect the numbers to go down. The number that we are most concerned about are the community cases, right? Especially asymptomatic cases. So over the past 2 to 3 weeks, we noticed that asymptomatic cases are in between 10 to 12 cases daily, but they're all being isolated. So the moment we know that someone might feel sick, we've put them aside. So with regard to the education system, what we've done in our schools is that we've started having split cohorts as well. So meaning to say, students who need a bit more academic help, students who are currently doing their exams this year, they are allowed to go back to school. Or if you have exams, you're allowed to go back to school. But if you're not, and you don't need to, then the teachers basically run the classes at home. So 1 week you could be in school, another week you're at home, and then vice versa.
So I remember that you have a few slides that you would like to share to our audience, so that we can look at that.
Sure. So hopefully you can see my slide right now.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, perfect. Right. So just a bit about myself. I want to share about the future of work, specifically about education technology. But before that, if anyone would like to drop me an email, you can drop me an email here. It's rushdi@reactor.school. Before running Reactor, I used to be with Enterprise Singapore. So that's a statutory board under the Ministry for Trade and Industry. So a lot of my work was working with startups as well as small and medium enterprises. So what does Reactor do? We basically help entrepreneurial students turn their ideas into companies. So we work with high schools and we work with universities. And we get students to build tech companies, right? And then we invest in them. So the students get an average of 100,000 Singapore dollars to work on their startup ideas, and then we mentor them, and then we help them to grow. Right, so the biggest change that we're noticing right now is in the mindset of students, right? So school teaches you a type of reasoning called causal reasoning, which is 1 + 1 = blank. But with a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, you need to use a different type of reasoning called effectual reasoning. So that's blank plus blank = 1. You know where you want to be, but now you realize that there's no one right answer. There are multiple ways to get there. So this is basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to get students to be comfortable dealing with uncertainty. Right, so prior to COVID-19, these were the startup opportunities that we noticed in Southeast Asia, and they were at intersections of different fields. So for example, education and travel, we saw that there was a lot more travel in Southeast Asia, especially students trying to find good universities that they want to go to around the region. Fintech and social networks, so you saw companies like Facebook, OVO, Grab, for example, pushing out solutions for consumers for finance. E-waste and logistics, we produce a lot of electronic waste. So your old mobile phones, your laptops have a lot of gold and a lot of silver, and you've got to extract that. And of course, we have construction and real estate. So that's the one where you see a rising middle-class population in Southeast Asia, and we need to house all our people. And then finally, we're talking about food security. So trying to look at aquaponics, hydroponics, and find a smarter way to grow food. So these were some of the bigger areas of opportunities in Southeast Asia. And what happened is that this was a survey that was done by NFX, so it's an early stage venture capital firm. Some companies saw revenue increase, some companies saw revenue decrease, right? So for example, like tourism in Singapore has been really, really badly hit because we have cut off all the borders to keep the virus at bay. But at the same time, we do see a lot more food delivery being used. We do see a lot more software as a service companies being picked up because people need to digitize their companies. So the change has been unequal. And what this means for younger students is that they need to figure out whether they want to make a swap in terms of the industry that they're in, or whether they want to double down on their industry and want to help them digitalize. Right, so these are just some of my personal thoughts about what are the upcoming opportunities for Southeast Asia. So like I mentioned about EduTech, you're going to see a lot more distance learning. You will see something called income share agreements, where the students graduate from school and then they pay a percentage back of their income back to the school. Digital payments, I mentioned that already. Telemedicine, so you see a lot of companies now looking at whether you could have consulting with the doctors online. That looks at mental health as well. I mentioned about food security and autonomous systems and software as a service. So that's number 6 and 7. So we're going to see a lot more drones being used for last mile delivery. We're trying to speed up logistics so that it's safe. And then number 7 is very interesting for Southeast Asia because we have a lot of mom and pop stores, right? A lot of Indonesia, we call it warongs or tokos. These are basically small stalls by the side of the roads, small and medium businesses. So I think there's going to be a lot more investment in this space to help these small businesses to digitalize. Yeah, and that's going to happen across the whole of Southeast Asia. So anyway, these are my personal thoughts based on my travel around the region and talking to some of my friends in the startup space. Yeah, and just a parting note, we're talking about knowledge, skills, and attitudes which I think young people should have for Southeast Asia. There are just 4 of them. One, like I mentioned, you need to be able to work with your peers around Southeast Asia in the international team. Second one is learning how to contextualize solutions. So things that work well in Indonesia may not work well in Vietnam. If they work well in Singapore, it may not work well in Thailand, vice versa. So you need to understand that there needs to be context. The third one is important. You need to be able to redefine your job. So for example, you might be doing project A today, but because you need to digitalize, project A is no longer valid. You need to be able to move to project B. And then the last one is something that I see as a trend across the whole of Asia Pacific even, is that a lot of our Asian students, ASEAN students, right, are very used to using social media and they don't read as much as they do, right? So we're very used to 5-second articles, listicles, YouTube videos, TikTok videos. But if you want to participate in the deep tech economy, you need to learn how to read long form. So basically, learning how to read journals, learning how to read books cover to cover, and it's an important skill because you need to be able to communicate in a coherent way. Yeah, so these are things that I think young ASEAN students should pick up, and I wish everyone all the best in their endeavors to be able to do so. If you'd like the slides, you can always just drop me a note, rushdi@reactor.school. Alternatively, you can just scan the QR code and or go to the link there, bit.ly/reactor slides. So you see, even we are digitizing, right? Giving out the slides instead of paper, we're giving it out via digital means. Yeah, so feel free to ask me any other questions if there's anything from the audience.
Yes, we have one more questions from our home audience. So it's about the IT industry. So since the software related works are on online platform for so long, so is this situation of COVID-19 like is still so I mean that the IT industry is still taking a hit from COVID-19 or not, or is it just a work as usual for the IT industry, from your opinion?
Right. So the IT sector is in different industries. You have IT for hospitality, you have IT for F&B, you have IT for marine and offshore engineering. IT industry as a whole, there are certain parts that have gone up and certain parts that have gone down. So IT for F&B, right, has gone up because you see a lot more companies trying to deliver stuff online. IT for hospitality has gone down, right? So my friend, he runs a tech company, right? He charges hotels for his technology. But hotels are not even having guests right now, right? So the hotels are saying like, hey, can we not pay you for a few months because right now we don't have any guests. And then you have other things like industry, marine and offshore engineering. That has increased in certain parts, because you're looking at logistics, you're still trying to get things across, whether it's your semiconductors or anything else. So even within the IT industry, the growth and the fall has not been equal. There are certain sectors which are doing better than others. So I think that's going to be interesting. The young person needs to understand like where exactly the areas of growth are going to be.
Yes, thank you very much for such an insightful talk and opinion. So I hope we can see each other in our future episode. And thank you very much for joining us today ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ Thank you.
สวัสดีครับ
ค่ะ
Thank you.
See
Take
you.
care.
So for our home audience, so we are at the end of our episode of CaF-Youth Virtual Forum. This is our last episode. We have even more new series in the future, especially in August. And for the summaries of today, our speaker have discussed a lot about what students should do or should have in order to be success in the future in the future work, or even for successful in applying for a new job. Especially they have to have a soft skill like adaptability, empathy, collaboration, and prioritization. So, and in some sector, especially in tourism and food industry, you have to be even have entrepreneurial skills or mindset. And even in any sector, new graduate or new student, you have to have a can-do attitude in order to attract an employer to hire you. And you also require to have multi-skills. And especially in COVID-19 crisis, many or even all industry are moving forward to even more digital based or even more technology IT based. So you need to have more skills in some digital skills in order to work virtually. And for the younger generation who are used to read a lot of short posts or short articles in social media platforms, so it is better for you to read information in a longer form or even books, because it will provide you more detail than the short summary that you have read from the articles online. So for our future episode, for our future work, we have a lot of activities in CASEAN. So please look for update from our CASEAN channel, such as our Facebook channel or our website. Soon in August, we have an event called ASEAN Youth Speech Contest. So we invite you to submit your short speech a video of your speech that lasts about 3 to 5 minutes under the topic called what is one vision, one identity, one community means to you, and submit your video and get a chance to win the prize of 5,000 Thai baht as a cash reward and opportunity to present your speech in front of international diplomats, especially our ASEAN diplomats and ambassadors at our Casean platform. So please stay tuned for our future online virtual forum ค่ะ Thank you very much, and please don't forget to click like, click share, send your emoji to express your feedback or what you think about our online series so that we can improve and even make it better in our future events ค่ะ Thank you very much everyone, and hopefully we can see each other again soon สวัสดีค่ะ